Section 23, flight instructors and evaluators. So we're told this is actually what the company was doing, even though the current book language says 12 bid periods, but we're changing the book to reflect that you need 13 complete bid periods as a line pilot to become an instructor. Some initial limits, we're advancing the timeline for when the 50% of the initial instructors and evaluators that fill the IE vacancy, I'm just reading this, that fill the process have to be cleared to conduct training on a new fleet type. So when a new fleet type comes in, the company can select the initial cadre as long as 50% are filled via the vacancy process. So now that timeline is going to be advanced so that it's done by seniority rather than instructor, rather than company discretion. Reserve assignments, this is a change for the instructors. The idea here is that the evaluators go last on the assignment list for reserve assignments. Today, it's based on the number of qualifications, so it kind of depends, but typically it makes evaluators go first. It may seem counterintuitive. Those of you who've instructed will understand this, but evaluators are generally not qualified to do very many things. They may be high level, so they end up going first because they have fewer quals. Overtime events. So they're balanced, and if both are qualified for an event now, that'll go to the instructor. And this is actually the reverse. This is now saving that critical qual for use later on. So it's actually the reverse philosophy of what I just briefed. They save the evaluator because they can only use them for certain things. They can afford to use an instructor for many more things because they're qualified to do all of the stages of training generally up until the evaluation. Instructors and evaluators can pick up events down to 10 days off. That mimics the MDO level for the line pilots. Overtime compensation is increased for the second event. So that's up to 150%. And then fourth and subsequent events are paid at 200%. So today, the second event pays just at 100%, and the IEs are limited to 3. Now they're going to be limited to whatever takes them down to 10 days. Inverse assignments eliminated. Say it again. Let's see.
It goes from second to fourth.
I think that's a typo.
Third and subsequent? We'll find out. I think it's third and subsequent, but I'll find out for sure. We'll do a language check for us.
28.3C says for the third and any additional voluntary overtime event, 200%.
Make a note, so we'll fix the slide. Yeah, we'll get that. We'll get the electronic version of the slide fixed. Do a pen and ink in your decks if you want. Thank you.
That actually brings up a good point. Are you guys going to send out an updated version of this for us to have?
Yep. Yep. Any changes we've had to make over the last couple of days, we'll update that.
So 20H3C for the third and any additional voluntary overtime events is 200%.
So it just replaced fourth with third.
Replace fourth
Yeah.
with third, yeah.
Okay.
They're allowed typos.
All right. No inverse assignments. So they've had that ability. We don't anymore. So it's mimicking the line. Ability for instructors to fly as captain. So sort of a throwback to what instructors used to be able to do at one of the legacy properties, but with a lot more wickets that they have to go through. So in order to fly as a PIC, the instructor must be qualified as an instructor, no less than 6 bid periods. That gives them time to accomplish and focus on getting their instructor qualifications. Line pilot interest, we want our instructors as fully qualified and ready to train us as possible before they start distracting themselves with other things. And then from an experience point of view, this is Iris alert. 24 bid periods of combined line or flying or instructing on the equipment that they're going to fly on as a PIC. And then following a safety risk assessment. So with ALPA, air safety, ALPA training, and the company, they'll look at that and decide if they can lower that down to 18 bid periods of combined flying for the minimum experience.
That can allow captains to apply for that job?
So I think that's part of the intent. So a captain coming in off the line, especially if they already have the 24 bid periods initially, would meet the wickets. They'd still have to go through training and become instructor qualified. And then when they do their currency flying, they could go out and fly as PIC. Annual flight time requirement. So narrow body aircraft, 72 hours a year, wide body aircraft, 86 hours a year. Today, no minimum flight time requirement, it's just days. And as long as they did something on those days, that meets the requirement. So this puts a specific requirement on top of the days requirement. Instructor pay cap increased to a 12th year A320 captain blend rate. Today it's at 9th year wide body FO rate. And the example just illustrates that the third year with seniority to hold 320 captain would be pay capped to, and this is current book rates, to 213.98. That's the FO rate for wide body. With the change, that would go to 272.06. That's the third year captain rate on the A320. Line check pilot qualified evaluators, when they're working in the building, but also qualified as a line check pilot, they'll be paid the greater of what their building pay would be, which is best held with the evaluator override, or what the blended aircraft rate they're qualified to fly on would be, plus the LCP override. So they'll do a comparison, pay the greater of. There's an example for a 12th year 737 evaluator, also an LCP. Best held, they can actually hold 756. So best held 12th year at the 756 blended rate with the override is 34 and change, and using the 737 blended rate, but with the evaluator or the LCP override, it's actually right just a little bit above 40. So that's the greater. Instructor and evaluator overrides depicted here for data signing with the 1% delta snap up that we match, and then the outline years. Once you scan that, but nothing really to explain there. These do continue to go up. These are now done instead of being fixed forever until the next contract. These will go up with successive pay raises. So if any intervening pay raise were to happen, or something happened between now and the next contract, or the next contract, percentages would just apply to these. Well, I kind of hesitate to try to even explain this. This is actually a reverse proration table from how you think of it as a line pilot. Those of you who might be instructors probably know how this works already, but the idea here is to accomplish more or less the same goal. So the number of days included in a vacation period have been lowered for vacation period 7 days and longer. That's to account for the increased value. So you on the line, when you bid with vacation of a higher value, that's a bigger credit into PBS that counts against the flying that you're awarded. This accomplishes the same procedure, the same goal for an instructor when they're awarded a schedule of work in the building. Minimum number of full-time evaluators. There's no minimum today. They could all be job share, but going forward, 20% must be full-time to give a little more continuity to the cadre in the building. And then job share instructors, they're coming, and but they have a slightly different balance as this is phased in. So a minimum of 75% of the instructor positions must be full-time, which allows for 25% obviously to become job share. All current full-time instructors are grandfathered. Nobody will be forced to become job share. And but if you want it, you'll be first in line to get it. Per diem for job share instructors or evaluators. So when they're required to come into the training center and they are put up in a hotel. So that's the corollary to, say, a line pilot doing a trip, and they don't live in the vicinity of the training center, they'll get per diem from the first briefing until the last debriefing. Some cleanup items in section 23. There's a settlement to do with job functions that the FTIs are doing. sick leave when they're doing TIA flying. So how sick leave is calculated when you're out on the line flying a trip during an instructor month. Minimum rest period prior to reporting for line flying. So that's adjusting that for really it's more of a clarification, but that allows instructors to have the proper rest that they need before they actually go out and fly a line trip, but also to be able to schedule them. There works both ways, there are problems. So that's going to get fixed. Maintaining currency while in instructor training. This has to do with landings qualifications primarily. When an IA loses a leg of a TIA, there's a settlement for that. So that will be brought in from the grievance world into the UPA. Just trying to take a look here. These are all pretty administrative in nature. How ad pay works for an instructor when they're doing their currency flying, codifying current practice for changing equipment. It's surprising how much stuff was done just sort of administratively under the, the TLAR. That looks about right methodology. So we're going to get all of that we have been able to identify contractually coded. See anything else there?